Go ahead and continue on with our post-race media availability and start with the winning race team for the 59th annual Daytona 500. We are joined by team co-owner Gene Haas, and then no stranger to Daytona Beach, a local crew chief, Tony Gibson. Let's start with you, old man.
Yeah.
You've been coming here since who knows when, and now you're a winner in the Great American Race. Talk about that.
It's insane, man. Like I said, I grew up 5 miles from here, and my mom retired from here, and my dad raced here all of his life. And to come here and you know, I've won it in the 500 before, but not as a crew chief. So to come here and be able to do this is amazing. You know, I'm getting old and getting towards the end of my deal, so it's nice to be able to get this done. I can't describe. It still hasn't really sunk in. Other than Stewart beating on me and said we won at Daytona 500, I really didn't realize we did. You know, I think everybody, you know, especially, you know, Gene and Tony and Ford Motor Company and, you know, Doug Yates and everybody and Monster Energy and Haas Automation, everybody back at the shop. It's just a huge, I'm just a small part of what goes on here. But I just happen to be the fortunate one that gets to sit up here. But all my guys, you know, most of them have been with me for over 13 years as a crew. And, you know, we were fortunate enough to be with Dale Jr. for one of these things, but to see those guys stick with me this long and to be able to finally win it is pretty amazing.
Gene, you have championship under your belt as a car owner, but now you have a Daytona 500 title to your name. How does that feel?
Oh, well, you know, I tell you, you know, being a NASCAR car owner, you know, by myself and with Tony, you know the frustration it takes to come to these races every week and week out, because, you know, most of the time you go home with nothing, and most of the time you come home with a wrecked car. So it's a really grueling racing schedule, and the Daytona 500 is probably the hardest friggin' race to win out there. It's you know, you cannot believe how hard these guys work on these cars. They sit there and massage them and, you know, get the templates to fit perfectly, and every little gap is perfect, and they color code them, and there's so much work that goes into these cars, and then you bring them here and you wind up, you know, destroying them. And you know, most of us kind of feel like, wow, is this really worth it? But when you do win it and you get one of these little rings, it suddenly feels like it's worth it. Yeah, it's just it's a awe-inspiring win, and it really does, you know, make you feel like all the frustration and the years and years of not winning it just makes it all suddenly okay. That was okay, and you know, just it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling to say we finally accomplished that. You know, both you know, Tony and myself have you know, it's been a long time. I know Tony's had a long career, and I've been doing this for a long time too. You know, it's a real feeling of satisfaction. I think for both of us to say that, you know, we accomplished something that so few people can accomplish in the racing world.
Well, it's my honor now to introduce to you the champion of the 59th annual Daytona 500, and that is Kurt Busch. Some superlatives on Kurt. This is his 29th victory in 577 NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series races. And of course, his first Daytona 500 triumph. Kurt, you did it without a rear view mirror. How did you pull that one off?
Thank you. I'm still just blown away by the amount of effort that it takes to win one of these races, let alone the Daytona 500. This is very special. You know, to have come here over the years and to have fast cars and to not deliver for the team, you leave here feeling more dejected than any other racetrack. The years that you have really fast race cars and you end up on the hook, wrecked, those are the worst feelings. Then there's years where you don't have speed and you can't figure out why, and you try to salvage a solid finish and jump into points mode. This place will challenge every emotion, and every day you wake up when you're here for Speed Weeks, you have a full tank of optimism each and every day. And Tony Gibson is an incredible crew chief, and I can't thank him enough, because building this car started back after we finished Talladega last fall, And we had a lot of switchover at SHR this offseason with building all these new Fords. So extra trips to the wind tunnel, extra massaging on this, changing that. You know, when you have a crew chief that grows up in the shadows of the grandstands here in Daytona, you know you've got the best guy because his heart is in it. And that's what Daytona is about. You got to give it your heart. And I gave my heart to a beautiful bride, Ashley, this offseason, and it's just been a fairy tale since the day I met her. And so here we are, sharing victory lane together as a team with my new bride, with Ford, our first race together with Ford, and my first race with Monster Energy, you know, with them as the entitled sponsor. And then for Gene Haas to believe in me years ago, he said, I'm all about the trophy. You know, you're not much of a points racer. He just wants the trophies. And this is an incredible feeling to have all this hard work delivered today and driving into victory lane. It's unbelievable.
Okay, and we are now also joined by team co-owner Tony Stewart. Smoke, your first Daytona 500 win as a car owner. Talk about that experience for you.
Well, if I knew all I had to do was retire to get it done, I would have retired a long time ago. It's couldn't be more proud to be up here with these three guys. I mean, to go back to when we joined with Gene and his group and made it Stewart Haas Racing, and bringing Tony Gibson and his crew in here, and then hiring Kurt. It's really neat to see how this has all gelled and come about, and just really my hats off and biggest thanks to everybody at Stewart Haas Racing, because we threw every curveball at them we could think of in the last 8 years. And it's just a big group of racers that all they want to do is just go out and win races and championships. And you know, nobody complained this winter when we had all the hard work and long hours, and you know, I can't think of a better way to thank them for that hard work, and you know, for Gene for letting me be a part of this with him, and you know, everyone at Ford Performance that really has worked hard to make us feel a part of their family in a short amount of time and help us get acclimated really quickly. And you know, Roush Yates engines, Doug Yates just brought awesome horsepower like he always does to Daytona. So just a great group of guys. You know, Tony Gibson does a great job on the box as always. And, you know, I told Kurt, I said, it's probably the best race and most patient race I've ever seen him run today. So he was definitely very deserving of this win.
Okay, we're going to open the floor up for questions. We're going to start with Jenna and go up to Jim and then to Lee.
Jenna Fryer, AP. I have two questions. Kurt, Mitch said earlier this week that he called after the clash and he told you, great job getting Monster all over TV, even though you wrecked, and he didn't think that you were very pleased with his assessment. So how did Mitch and them feel today after a victory?
It's incredible to have such a powerful brand share the car with Gene Haas, and the way that Gene Haas worked together with Rodney Sachs, Mark Hall, Hilton Schlossberg, and Mitch Covington. It feels like family when you share a car like we do. And you know, when you're in wrecks and they're doing a super slow-mo of your car going through the grass, you know, that's what my bride Ashley has turned me into such a positive thinker. She's like, that was great exposure for Monster. And then Mitch is texting at the same time. And I'm like, no, think of Tony Gibson and all the effort that he put into building this beautiful car, and now it's thrashed. And here we are in victory lane together after such a difficult race. The more unpredictability that keeps getting thrown into the Daytona 500, now you just predict unpredictability. And with the segments today, that threw in another wrench with guys on old tires, guys on new tires. You know, a lot of veterans were taken out. And then there was the lap 80 wreck when it seemed like that should have been the time where we all settled in as a group that knows how to race at Daytona, and that's when we had the most wrecks. And so I was thankful that I got through a lot of the wrecks with minimal damage, and Gibson managed the 5-minute clock. I mean, here we are. We're minutes away from not being able to repair the car and having a clock tell us that we can't compete anymore. And so we were that close to being eliminated. And there's just so many new things within this sport. You just keep rolling with it, and you smile, and you know that you got a great team with Stewart Haas, great team with Gene Haas in Oxnard, California, and a great team with Monster Energy in Corona, California.
And Gene, what made you take a gamble on Kurt? I mean, it doesn't look like a gamble now, but when you did it, you maybe were offering him a second chance.
It's still a gamble. You never know about
He's joking. He doesn't really mean that.
You know, I tell you, early on, when you look for drivers, you know, some people like to develop their own drivers, and you know, we did that a little bit, but that's a difficult way to go. I look for, you know, a driver has proven talent. Kurt, you know, is already a past champion. He's won, you know, I think we started over 25 races. So, you know, he definitely had the ability, and you know, when we met in a steakhouse at Indianapolis, and I just said, "Hey, would you be interested in driving for me?" And he said, "Yeah," and it just started from there. And it wasn't really a big leap of faith on my part. I know he had gone through a little bit of a transition, you know, out of Penske, and so I kind of thought, you know, I knew he had the talent to do it. And like I say, I wasn't interested in points racing. I was interested in winning, and I thought he could deliver that, and he has done that. So, you know, I knew he had the ability to do it. So that was really the basis for my decision. And it looks like today, it looks like it all paid off.
Okay, we're going to go to Jim to Lee, this young lady up front, and then over to Joe.
JimMotterMotorsport.com. Kurt, you touched on this a little, and Gene had mentioned the work that goes into massaging the car. What rolled into victory lane was a lot more than massaged, as well as many of your competitors today. Did you feel this race turned into more one of survival?
Daytona is always about survival. As I gave Tony Gibson a high five before we started the race, I said it's 90% protect the car, 10% go for aggression, race hard, and execute at the end. I'm thankful enough that we didn't have too much damage. The nose was clean and the tail was clean. And yeah, the sides were a bit wrinkled up, and you just kind of let the rough edges drag. You go for it. I mean, there's things that everybody has to go through to win this race, and usually there's not a perfect car anymore. And so I've just let the care go to the side when it comes to trying to protect the car, making sure it doesn't have too much damage, because you always want a perfect car to have the most speed at the end, and that's not the case anymore.
SpencerMotorsport.com. Congratulations, everybody. Kurt, when Gibson told you you had like a lap short of fuel, what started going through your mind? Did you start feathering the car? And also, so many times you have been the pusher instead of the pushy, you know, the guy that wins. Being that close so many times, has that prepared you for what you did today?
With the fuel situation, he said we were half a lap shy. I just figured he would figure out how to gain a half a lap as we raced.
Well, well, we had a plan, and then Stewart is sitting beside me, and I looked at him and I said, how much fuel is he actually burning right here running third? And I said, is he like running half throttle, quarter throttle? And Stewart was like, no, he's all out. He's matted. That's the only way you can run there. And I'm like, oh, perfect. Not what we wanted to hear. So he wasn't helping me any.
No, I wasn't helping you. I was full throttle. Either we were all going to come to the line together like we did, or we were all going to run out together, because we were on the same sequence as the majority of those cars up front. And sometimes you just got to roll with it.
And about seeing the finish so many times for the second place.
To have the mirror fall off, and it broke on the left hinge, and so the right hinge was still mounted to the upper roll cage. And so I took my right arm and I tried to fix it. Now the mirror's going vertical, but I couldn't get enough angle in it to see behind me. And I was like, oh, this is just exciting. What would Ashley do at this point? Because she just laughs at stuff like this. And I'm like, okay, I'm just laughing at it too. Well, I can't see crap out the back. I could see nobody back there. And so then I said, well, what would my dad do? And what would he teach me to do as a young racer? And I thought of the times when I raced my little dwarf car with my dad as my owner and my crew chief. And I raced that little dwarf car without a mirror. And you go off intuition. You go off momentum. You go off sound of other cars. And I visioned a track that the top groove was the primary groove when I was growing up as a kid. And I said, I just got to stay up high. I got to take advantage of other people's mistakes. And I have to leave 2 to 3 feet to the right side of my car to try to absorb guys from the left side and make my car as wide as I could, and just going off of feel. And everybody kept making moves, and I knew that I was sticking to the top side, and I couldn't believe it all worked out. I mean, the spotter said they're 4 back after I exited turn 2. I'm like, oh, we're done. And then he said 5 back. I'm like, oh, this is a new spotter. What the hell is he talking about? And then I hunkered down. I was just expecting to get hammered from behind all the way to the start-finish line because I thought the momentum of the pack was going to come up and take the lead away from me, and we won.
Thanks. Right here, Melissa Thomas of Florida National News. Congratulations again to the team. Aside from tonight's wins, I know it's kind of a first for everyone. What was your most meaningful victory from previously? Like each of you can answer that. Your most meaningful race.
I mean, he's won the Daytona 500 before. This is one of the biggest ones that there is.
Yeah, it doesn't get any better than this. I've been fortunate enough to win it before, but you know, to win it with this guy beside me right here, and Gene and Tony Stewart, Smoke, and you know, those guys support us, and it's just a different feel. It's in today's times to win, it's so competitive and so hard to win. You know, each time you win, it means more because it's harder and harder to win each time. So, and you're only as good as your last win. So, you know, this means more to me than anything I've ever done. I mean, I won the championship with Alan Kowicki in '92. That was a big story, but this right here is huge.
This moment and this feeling of giddiness and just belief, a surprise feeling, it reminds me of my first win at Bristol in my second year of racing. It takes you all the way back. You feel like a kid again when you get to Daytona's victory lane.
Well, I'll have to defer, but I'd say probably the greatest victory was when we won 2011 and Tony won at Homestead. And that was winning the championship. And he went to the back, I don't know, twice and drove to the front. And that race was the best race I can ever remember. And yeah, that's the one I remember the most.
Same way. That's the one that means the most to me. I mean, to battle all the adversity we had to battle to go back and forth, and I think we passed 120 some odd cars for position that day. That's a lot of cars to pass. So definitely was pretty cool. But I can promise you this, even though I ran here 18 times or 17 times and didn't win this race, this is pretty daggone cool to win it as a car owner. So this is pretty special.
We're going to go next to Joe, then to Bob, and then we're going to go upstairs to the press box.
Joe Menzer, FoxSports.com over here. Kurt, Tony said that this is probably the most patient, best race you've ever run. I'm just kind of wondering how much your new positive attitude kind of played into that.
And patience and a compliment coming from Tony Stewart, that means a lot too. Again, Daytona will challenge you mentally and emotionally. And for me, all the stuff that was getting thrown at us today, our car still had speed, and I just kept digging. It's a matter of having the right strategy, and you believe in your crew chief. It's a matter of having the right engine, and I believed in Ford. And then there's fate that helps you navigate through some of these wrecks. I mean, the circumstances that happen out on the track and avoiding wrecks, you just have to be lucky. And I was thankful that I was able to slide through a lot of these wrecks and be in position at the end.
Go next to Bob.
Bob Hockers, ESPN. I had two. First for Kurt, was there anything that you would have wanted done to your car if you had more than 5 minutes, or if you could have added a part or a piece? And second, would you have done anything different fuel mileage wise if you were in a Chevy versus a Ford? Is there anything that you have to do differently?
I think they repaired it to the best of their ability, and when you have a damage and you have to put tape and repair work on the back bumper, what that means is that's a blinker, and people will just change lanes on you and not run with you. I was very thankful we didn't have damage on the back bumper because it still convinced guys our car had a good shape to it, and therefore the people from behind are more friendly. So they did a great job to keep tape off the back of the car. And then as far as fuel mileage goes, when you're switching over a manufacturer, there's a lot of components, and there's so many different things that can go wrong. This just shows the strength of what SHR went through this offseason to be able to find every ounce of fuel on a switchover and to get all the fuel to that Ford engine. It's a testament to all the hard work, and I'm very thankful from everybody.
And for Tony, obviously you never won the Daytona 500 as a driver. Do you think the feeling of the owner as an owner compares to it at all, or would have compared to it?
Pretty happy right now. So I'm thinking, yeah, it might kind of compare a little bit. So yeah, I mean, it's, you know, when you've grown up all your life as a race car driver, you want to win it as a driver. But there's, you know, for every driver, there's a point where you step out of the car and you do something different. And to have an opportunity to come back this year as an owner and still have the opportunity to be where we're at right now, I mean, that's a pretty exciting feeling. I mean, it's what, you know, anybody that does anything with a race team, especially owners, I mean, that's what you strive for. I mean, you strive to win races and you strive to win championships, but, you know, first and foremost, you want to win the biggest one of the year, and that's out of the box here at Daytona. So, you know, I mean, like I said, if I knew I would retire and win the next race, I would have retired 17 years ago and got it that way. So, you know, it's a pretty cool deal. I mean, this is one that, you know, we've waited for a long, long time.
Okay, we're going to go upstairs to the press box for a couple questions and then come back down to Dinah, Dan, and George.
Caleb Whistler, Speedway Digest. Earlier this week at Daytona 500 media day, you said the track has been tough for me, but it owns me. Now that you're a Daytona 500 champion, how does this track basically, how does that change for you?
Yeah, I said it owns me. It doesn't owe me anything. And you have to be humble when you walk through the gates here. And you have to approach each and every year with, again, that optimism and that belief that you can get the job done. And the more years that go by, you know, there's certain strategies or handling characteristics that you have to ignore or have to just forget about it because those aren't relevant to what it's going to take to win in 2017. And you always hope that it can happen. And today is that day, and it happened because of all the great teamwork, great sponsors on this car, the great engine under the hood from Doug Yates. I felt like this time around was the most complete that I was going into Speed Weeks, and I believed in it. And I'm just so happy that it all turned out. So thank you, Daytona.
Keep it upstairs.
Bruce Martin with Speed Sport. Congratulations, everyone. Kurt, you played the role of a good teammate in 2008 when you pushed your teammate at Team Penske, Ryan Newman, to the victory. Now, you know nothing in this sport's ever guaranteed, but have you ever reflected back on that and wondered if that might have been the closest you were ever going to get?
I always looked for Newman to hang out with me in 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. He was never there. Everybody's very selfish in this garage. You always have to believe, but I tell you, the time I finished second to Waltrip in 2003, that was sheer luck. The rain started while I was running second. 2005, I was following Jeff Gordon going down the back straightaway, and I wanted to peek out high and go around him, but I saw a line of Chevrolets behind me. This is when I was driving for Ford, and I just tucked back in line, and I wanted that one back the most. 2008, 2007, I had a fast car, and I wrecked with my owner over here to my left. That was a tough defeat because one of us should have ended up in victory lane that day. 2008, I had to push Newman. I couldn't go around him. It would have just stalled the whole drafting line. 2011, I won the Clash. I won the qualifying duel, and I was in the same position, running third on the last lap to win the 500, and I didn't close the deal in 2011. That one stung the most. And then you gotta have a top team. Stewart Haas has been that for me. And this year, all the pieces came together. And so you always have to believe it can happen.
One more upstairs.
Yes, this is Don Caldwell from the Florida Times Union. This is for Gene and for Tony. As owners and as racers, what does a day like today mean when you're able to provide the resources, the parts, the pieces, and the people to help guys like Kurt and help guys like Tony fulfill a dream?
That's for you, by the way.
Well, you know, I always kind of look at to the team because the team is composed of so many people that work so hard. I know the drivers, you know, they're the culmination of everything the team does, but I kind of think that sometimes the team members work as hard, if not harder, than the drivers to get the car to victory lane. And to be honest with you, I kind of like that. I think the process of getting to victory lane sometimes is more rewarding than, say, being in victory lane, because all the work and effort that goes into these cars, and you know, you got the crew chiefs and the engineers and the guys on the pit wall, and all the fabricators back at the shop. I mean, there are so many people it takes to make this happen. And you know, sometimes, you know, we're sitting there popping the champagne, we forget about them, but they're really the heroes. I think that makes me feel good. I really feel like it's good to have done something to show them that what they did was really worth the effort. And anyways, that really works for me. And it's really cool too to you know, to be able to pick a driver and have that driver really wind up in victory circle, because it kind of validates, you know, what your processes are in picking them. And then same thing with partners. I certainly wouldn't have wanted a business partner to be involved in racing. So, you know, Tony was the perfect fit because he understands racing, and I learned a lot from Tony about what it takes to be successful in this business. And you know, prior to that, you know, we were a small team like there are out there today, and it's hard. It's hard to break through that ice and to be on top. But there's so many people that contribute to it. And you know, here we are sitting up here thinking how wonderful we are, but there's so many people, you know, back at the shop that, you know, got us here.
I think the cool thing, you know, when first year we had Stewart Haas, and when we won the All-Star race, that was the first race that the whole organization had won. And you know, it was really an eye-opening experience for me, because I went from being a driver that had been fortunate enough to win races and, you know, be there in victory lane, but to, on that particular night, to be there and see guys, you know, especially at Charlotte, where, you know, guys that don't get to travel on the road get a chance to be there, but to see a lot of our guys there in victory lane, and to realize that a lot of those guys had never won a race before in this series. And you know, it was really an eye-opener for me. The fun part was that I realized it was cool to be there as a driver and to win, and it was cool to bring Gene to victory lane. But like Gene mentioned, it was really cool to take a group of people that had never been to victory lane before in the series, and be able to be a part of getting them there, and to see. I mean, I was watching grown men cry. I mean, guys that just had worked a long time to get to that you know, point in their career. And so, you know, I guess it from that moment on, it kind of changed my perspective of how I look at it as an owner, and realizing that, you know, I've known all along in 38 years of racing that you have to have a good group of people to get you there. But, you know, I think the best part of it is when you get to celebrate with all those people. And, you know, it's probably what I'm looking forward to most this week, is being able to get back to North Carolina and go to the shop and, you know, pat all of them on the back and tell them congrats, because it, you know, like we said, we really put those guys through a lot this winter of, you know, all the additions and changes that we made. And, you know, for them to, you know, for us to be able to come down here and win a Daytona 500 and be able to take it back to SHR, I mean, that's something I'm really proud of from the ownership side, to be able to thank those people. And, you know, that's a pretty good way to pat them on the back and say thanks, is to win this race for them.
Okay, we're going to come back downstairs. We're going to go to Dinah, then to Dan, then to George, then to Dustin, and then to Alan.
Dinah Pulver with the Daytona Beach News Journal. Tony, this question is for you. I think you might have made a few of us tear up with your emotional celebration there in the pit box. Were you surprised at how emotional you got and how you felt?
Yeah, I mean, you never know how you're going to act when those things happen, but, you know,
Which Tony was she talking about anyway? I didn't know which Tony she was.
Well, was it him? Because he was pretty.
He was comatose.
He
didn't even move.
I was like a frog for a while. He was one jumping up and down. Yeah.
He just sat there and laid his head back. I'm like, did he pass out? I had to shake him. I had to shake him for a minute to see if he was awake.
He did. He said, "Man, you won the 500." I'm like, "You sure, dude, man?" I wasn't 100% sure I did or not, but yeah, like I said, I've been. This is where I grew up. I was born in Halifax Hospital across the street, and like I said, my mom retired from here, and my dad's raced all his life, and, you know, he's had some great drivers drive his stuff, and, you know, it's to come here and win a Daytona 500. Anything I do is my dad, you know, he worked 2 jobs, and I had 2 other brothers that raced, and Dad had to work night and day and everything he had to make sure we could race and have fun. And so my mom and dad are the ones I thought about very first thing, is, you know, growing up and where I'm at today. And my wife, Beth, you know, she's been my biggest supporter for the last 26 years, sticking with me when things are bad, or I'm laid up in the hospital or whatever. But, you know, just all those emotions just clamp on you at one time. And, you know, it takes a few minutes for it to sink in, but, you know, it's pretty incredible.
Go next to Dan.
Dan, thanks. Dan Gelston, the Associated Press. Kurt, how, if at all, has Tony changed in retirement, either with demeanor or involvement, these last few months, and especially in speed weeks?
Be very careful.
Yeah, I love your glasses. It makes you look so educated.
Fake it well.
I tell you, the times that we raced against each other over the last few years, and the role that he plays as a racer and then as an owner, he puts each hat on distinctively. And when he walks into team meetings and has to talk as a team owner, he is spot on. There's nothing, you can't pull the wool over a racer owner. I made one stupid move at a Pocono restart, and he came in there and gave me the smack across the back of the head, like, what the hell were you thinking? And I was like, that was the racer, Tony. But then that was the owner as well, because, you know, I didn't put the car in a good position to get the best finish. Tony's very patient, and he is astute to the management of the people. And you can hear that in his voice tonight, talking about how he's watching grown men cry. There is that self-satisfaction that he gets, as well as Gene, as well as Tony Gibson, to watch their team perform and to put all these puzzle pieces into place. It's really neat to have this powerful of a team, a great owner, a champion driver that just turned into a full-time owner. We've made our stable that much stronger with Tony Stewart in this role. The sky's the limit, and I'm just so happy to have everybody in the position that they're in and to win in our first race with Ford. Those guys, they have some passion, and it matches our passion at SHR.
Okay, we'll go next to George, then to Dustin, this gentleman over here.
Yeah, Kurt, right back. George Diaz with Orlando Sentinel, right back here. Before Chase ran out of gas, were you starting to plot any strategy to make a run at him at all, or how did that transpire? How was it playing out in those final few laps?
I didn't even know he ran out of gas. I felt like when the car numbers that I was looking at, 24, it wasn't Jeff Gordon. When I was looking at, you know, the 14 car who wasn't up front, but that was Tony Stewart, a legendary driver. I didn't see Kenseth up there. I didn't see Harvick up there. I was seeing all these young guys, all these new guys. And I'm like, haha, I'm the old bull here. I just got to take my time. And I'm going to walk around here the right way and give it my best, smartest decisions that I can make, even though I had all the damage that I had. And I figured that these guys would get a little overzealous and make a few moves that they couldn't keep up with. And I didn't know that Chase ran out of gas. I hate that for him, because he definitely had the car to beat. And the kid's going to be a superstar in this sport. And circumstances weren't on his side today. But all those kids, I mean, we put on a performance those last 50 laps. And nobody wrecked. Everybody came home safe and put on a great show. And that's what I'm really happy about.
Go next to Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports, for Tony Stewart. Tony, you've gone, can you, I guess, just kind of describe the journey that you and Greg Zipadelli have gone on, especially at this place, through the years, the successes and the dejections, and what it meant to win this with him today, and to share that with I guess how you describe what that journey's been to this point for you guys, because you've been so connected.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, actually, because that was one person that we talked about a lot of people here, and that's someone that I feel like we need to give a lot of credit to, because, he should be sitting up here as much as the four of us are, because he's the one that's really led the charge. And, you know, with the whole switch over and you know, leading everybody at the shop, I mean, it starts with him. And, you know, it's like Kurt said, I mean, there was a year here that, you know, Kurt's car and our car were the best two cars here, and I got a pit road speeding penalty, and I knew that was one that I let get away from us, and you know, when I caused the wreck that took Kurt and I out. So you know, there were a couple times, you know, Kurt's forgetting that when he pushed Ryan to the win, he pushed Ryan past us for that.
I didn't forget, I just didn't mention it.
I was remembering at the same time, but you know, that was one that we, you know, and that was really before guys really blocked like they do now. I mean, I sat there and I couldn't even look at Zippy for the whole week leading into Atlanta, because I felt like, you know, if I moved in the upper lane there, that, you know, they were coming so fast that I was going to wreck us doing it. And we had Kyle, was our teammate at the time, and, you know, tried to stay with our teammate and make it work. And I just felt like I let it get away. So this was really cool. I mean, Zippy's here with, pretty much all of his family except for his oldest son isn't here with us this weekend, but you know, it's just a big relief, and that was really cool to see him in victory lane too. Just, you know, he just kept saying it's just a relief finally. You know, we knew we were close a couple times, and you know, just never could finish it off. So it's nice to, you know, like I said, even in this capacity, it's nice to finish it off this way.
Go to the right here.
Thank you. Hi, Kurt. Peter King, CBS Radio News. I'm just curious, and I'm kind of surprised nobody's asked this before. Two parts. What are you doing tonight to celebrate after you get done with us here? And number two, in a more serious vein, how long do you get to savor this win before you have to start thinking about next weekend?
I'm sure Monster's organizing something right now as we speak. I don't have my cell phone yet, but I'm sure the party will start somewhere, and I have no idea where. And I hope the fog lifts by the time Friday rolls around when we get to Atlanta. This is something that's special. Like Tony Stewart has said, Gene Haas has said, you've won this race before. This is a championship wrapped into these 2 weeks. And there's so many emotions. It's hard. I mean, when I put my hands in the concrete that they're going to put out front of the Speedway after it dries, that's when it sunk in, literally, when my hands were going into concrete, that we achieved this special moment. And a great family that's here with me, with the Van Meter family. My mom and dad didn't make it for this race. We'll definitely have a nice celebration tonight, but we have to keep it in perspective. We've got a nice, don't we take the car to the museum tomorrow morning? Yeah. And I'm sure I got to go to New York or a few other places to celebrate this with different media members and different shows. I mean, this is a celebration. And as my groomsmen would say right before the wedding, we have to pace ourselves. We got to pace ourselves. So I'll use their words of wisdom, and we'll get to Atlanta, and we will jump on the track, and we'll be smart and attack for win number 2.
We'll pace ourselves with 2 more questions. We're going to go to Joseph and then to Lewis.
Joseph Walken, frontstretch.com. Kurt, how do you feel like you've changed as a person, not even just as a driver, but as a person off the track since you joined Stewart Haas?
I feel like experience on the track continues to grow, but I was neglecting experience in life and the different circumstances that were happening. I wasn't learning enough from. And my wife, Ashley, has helped me digest better feelings towards how to approach situations. And it's like today when the mirror broke at lap with 30 to go, I looked at it and I saw her in it. I'm like, what would she's just going to smile. She's just going to figure it out. I tell you, there's age and wisdom, they come together. Youth is wasted on the young. And I've been through some different patches here or there, but to have a team that believes in me, that's the most important part. To have a wife that believes in me and a family, of course, all the way through all of this. And then to be a monster athlete for the last 6 years. They're a sponsor that's stuck by my side, and we've won some good races together, and now we get to toss a Daytona 500 trophy in the lobby in Corona, California, as well as Oxnard, California, with Haas Automation.
Okay, Lewis, we'll finish it off there.
Louis Frank of Reuters, to your left. And congratulations all. Kurt, watching the race today, was a little bit like your career. If it was a television show, you'd call it Survivor. What's kept you going all these years through the ups and downs?
How many times have you told me, Gene, that I'm a survivor? How many times did you say that?
I don't remember.
You don't remember? Okay. That's what Daytona's about. You got to roll with it. You have to find what it's going to take to win. And our car didn't have too much damage on it on the nose and on the tail. I felt like it still had speed in it. I knew Gibson was going to give me the right pitch strategy. And I just kept believing that it was going to happen. I mean, 17 years of heartache can be erased. And it's a race tonight. And having the chance to win as a team with all of these sponsors and this new Ford partnership, it flashes through your mind of all the people that have helped you get to this point in life. And I have a lot of great friends back in Las Vegas that helped me in the grassroots racing that I think of on a night like tonight.
Well, Kurt, you're no longer just a survivor. You're now forever remembered as a Daytona 500 champion. Congratulations again, guys, and best of luck next week in Atlanta.
Thank you.
I remember that.
You're a survivor.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Well, you have a good memory. You have a memory.
Okay. Thank you.
Can't recover as fast.
I stayed in the bus for 2 days.
Let's see.
Thanks.
You're still here.
Oh,
Still
yeah.
right here?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can hang around.
Have another water or
Congratulations.
cold beer?
Cold beer. Yeah, get a beer.
I would say beer.
Beer.
For beer.
Give him a beer.
Massage and tweak these cars all.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ford social transmission or type talk is really good. That would be great. Your mounts and